Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. Today we're going to be discussing prolonged fasting versus a daily caloric deficit for cutting fat, losing weight. So for you that have been following the channel for some time, it's probably no secret that my personal preferred method is prolonged fasting. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that I think it's the best period for everyone all the time. Right now, I am also actually cutting on a daily deficit for reasons we'll go into later in the video. And I've had clients with similar starting points and similar goals where I've chosen to put one on the fasting routine and one on the daily deficit. So in this video, we're just gonna compare the two, discuss the pros and cons of each. So for me, one big thing why I prefer prolonged fasting is, and by the way, when I talk about prolonged fasting, I'm not someone that preaches like, fast for several days, just have the one meal and then keep fasting. Like maybe as a temporary thing where you go over to something less aggressive that you know beforehand. And typically this would be for someone that's very overweight. But the way I like to incorporate fasting is the typical routine that I've done myself and with clients is weekly 60-hour fast. So you fast for 2.5 days and you eat on the other days, right? So a big reason that I prefer making the deficit happen with a weekly fast like that rather than a smaller deficit each day is, for me, it's just easier to have a rule to follow that I'm not eating at all during these days rather than I'm holding back just a little every day. A quick note on that, holding back, what I mean is not necessarily that I don't eat till I'm full, nice and full. The snake diet people will know, former or current food addicts, you've probably figured out that, the addiction isn't actually only to, I want to enjoy these tastes. It's kind of like I want to be so full that I don't have to sit with the discomfort of wanting more. But so what I mean, because I rarely eat till I'm actually like full, but just holding back, knowing that I'm eating just a little less and I'm using, you can feel it. And to me, this is not to say that when you're fasting that you're never experience like low energy or you have some kind of craving and that. But to me, it's like, the rule is I don't eat. So you can't negotiate with that. But when you're eating and you never really feel, even close to full, you can kind of be like, it's easy like, but what if I eat just a little bit more? Maybe, yeah, I didn't have so much of that, so maybe it's easier to start bargaining. For me, a comparison would be, like, say, never mind why this would happen, but to me, like, I have to pee. And if I have to hold it for some time until I find a place where now I can just pee, rather than if I start peeing here, I take a risk, and then someone comes, so I have to stop right before I'm done. That seems tougher to me. I feel kind of the same with the eating. I'd rather just don't have anything than just like But there are right now. That's obviously what I'm doing, right? But so this video is of course for you to figure out what would be the best approach for you. So some people, I've just noticed that if they can have like a little dose, it's almost just like they're probably not the person that's chasing the nice and full feeling as much. They can just be kind of happy, like if I get to eat something, as long as I get to eat, I can stick to it. So it's easier for them to eat on a daily deficit. While for the food addict, I really think a routine with just like nothing, and very rigorously planned refeeds is a better approach. So think about which kind of person are you here. So another thing I really like with cutting with prolonged fasting is of course that there's a ton of other benefits to fasting other than the ones you gain from losing weight. There's a ton of benefits to losing weight no matter how you do it, but people do fasting, myself included, for not only to lose weight, for other benefits. So there's a ton of them. I've talked about it in other videos, but you have the big growth hormone boost, you have the autophagy, you have just a spiritual effect, just the reversal of addictions in general, but to food in particular. And that's, of course, it's not something I really need anymore. I don't really have a food addiction. But the amazing thing cutting with fasting is that not only do you lose weight, but it's a way faster way to lose food addiction. Like just sticking to eating whole foods in a deficit or even maintaining, like eventually you'd phase out the food addiction too, but doing it with fasting scrubs out the dopamine receptors so much faster. So that's just one amazing thing. There are so many benefits that you get from fasting that you don't get from a daily deficit that makes it very amazing. So we're gonna have one thing that I like and don't like about prolonged fasting. It depends, where I'm at in life. But one thing, like last year, I was cutting with prolonged fasting, and I was coming off a very intense bulk, when I'm training super hard every day except one per week, you know. And then I could actually enjoy during the fasting days that I don't really have to train now. Quick side note: have videos about muscle loss when fasting and cutting. You know, like whether you do fasting or a daily deficit, as long as you do it right and you're not gonna do like super ridiculous low, you train well and you eat protein, you're not really gonna lose muscle. However, you know, that would be the reason to train just a little bit on a long fast if you wanna, like, you know, make sure you do everything you can to hold on to muscle. You would just do the minimum dose to stimulate. But of course, there's no point in training like lifting weights like you usually do when you're not eating, because then you're just breaking down muscle. You're not getting any protein, no building blocks to rebuild it. So that would actually be what triggers muscle loss. So coming off like an aggressive cut, I can actually enjoy, like, on these fasting days, I don't even have to train. I will exercise and I will go do some like mobility work and I will move, but I can actually, like this intense gym workout, I can actually, I like it in the long term, but specifically in that setting, it can be kind of nice. I can use this time to something else, you know. So we flip it over to the daily deficit. What I actually like, and one of the reasons I do it right now, is I haven't been bulking in that way. Like I will train hard all year round, you know, but I haven't been bulking in that way this year. And now so the reason I'm doing it now, I talked about it in another video, but it's just that I have less than a month left in Greece. I want to be able to train more. I want to be able to be social, which includes training, because I know guys I train with here. I don't want to have to be the weirdo that fasts on some kind of social event and that. So that's also a reason, you know, for us that like lifting, it's nice to cut on a daily deficit because it just allows you to train more, right? It's also, if you know, it's going to be easier to be making some kind of progress, like putting on a little bit of muscle as you cut or doing some strength gains. I can notice that when I'm slow cutting on a daily deficit now, like I'm pretty much holding on to my big lifts, the numbers, and I can make a little bit of progress on the smaller lifts. And I think more of a beginner can, on this kind of weekly fasting routine, still make some gains, but it's going to be, the more advanced you are, it's just like aborting the food intake for 60 hours each week. It's just going to be difficult. That's why I was slow cutting with prolonged fasting last year, and I was doing one of these fasts every other week, and I still didn't really make any progress. I held on to my strength well, you know. So that's the thing I like with the daily deficit. It depends on the situation, of course, but it's nice now that I can actually be cutting, moving towards my goal there. I don't really have to, I can get to enjoy my training like that. You know, one thing it's kind of interesting, but I realize as I'm talking about this that it's easier to not eat at all rather than eat and feel like you're holding back. It's giving me a certain appreciation for the food that when I'm like maintaining or bulking, that I don't really have in the same sense. Like I really cherish my 3 meals that I eat. Like I will make more of a thing out of it. Go out in the sun, sit and eat my strawberries and some meat, something like that, you know. But I think, and I'm just thinking out loud now, but that will be my main thing, you know, that you can train more often and it's going to be easier to make some kind of progress even while cutting when you're using the daily deficit, right? So yeah, overall, I just prefer prolonged fasting, definitely. Well, we will say this, I think what's with the fasting is that it brings a ton of good stuff, you know, like all these health benefits we talked about, and reversing addictions and that. But it comes at the price that it's not always super convenient with our life, right? Like I'm someone, you know, the more adapted you get to fasting, the more you can just go about your days as you normally would when you're fasting. But I'm not going to stand here and say that it isn't difficult sometimes to not having been eaten for days and having to work and stuff, or take care of your family or whatever you have to do. Sleep can easily take a hit when fasting. So I think, you know, it's kind of like, I think there are more upsides to cutting with fasting. There's also some downsides that you don't really get on a daily deficit. So, you know, I'd recommend everyone to try both, see what works for you, you know, like, because it can be easy just because you found fasting, like, oh, that seems great, and I can lose it so fast, Not necessarily the case, like, because you know, bigger, being more aggressive with fasting, losing it faster, that could also lead to a bigger binge and rebound. So try both, and try them for different reasons. Like when you're in a good spot, when you can see, like, I have some days like this, fasting on these days is gonna be piece of cake, you know, like by all means do it. I might even when I'm doing it with a daily deficit now. But if you have a busy life, or you want to train more than that, try doing it on a daily deficit. I'm gonna do another video kind of about, which is more about fasting, like kind of how to master fasting. Yeah, how to master fasting basically. And the point is a lot with all of this, like, don't get married to one thing, or be stubborn about one little thing, you know. Find what works for you. And sometimes, you know, if you've been doing fasting, exhausting yourself with it, I guess I'm taking a point when I take that video, it can be good to go try the daily deficit route, or even just maintain for a while to like regain some confidence, build some momentum before you go back to the fast. So, you know, I guess what I'm trying to get to here is people like are so black and white in general. You know, like, nah, fasting is superior. All those normies cut on the daily deficit, they're catabolic, they're losing muscle. This is not really true. And of course, the normies on the daily deficit, they would say the same, like, no, it's too extreme, blah blah, stress hormones. Oh no, you're gonna lose muscle when you're fasting, blah blah. No. It's all about how. There's more nuance than fast daily deficit. There's like, these things are positive with this and less positive, and la 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 la. And for this person in this situation, or my current goal, my current circumstance, just think bigger. Okay, guys, let me know what you think. Have you tried both? Which one is superior for you and why? I'd love to hear other people's opinions. You know, I'm just happen to be the most, except Cole Robinson, I just don't really know anyone that has the kind of experience I have with the fasting, especially with this kind of lifestyle, with liking to train and build muscle and that. So I'm always open, because people that follow me are of course going to have some experience too. So please let me know what you think, your experience. Please like and comment anyway. All comments and likes help support the channel, so it's very much appreciated. I have kind of a special coaching offering during the summer, because I'm planning to kind of reboot my regular services after summer. So I have a kind of a special offer. You can reach out on DM me on Instagram or email me. It's all in the description, and I'll fill you in on how that works. Please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, mindset. It's a mindset, guys. Don't be black and white. Things can be good and bad depending on many different things. There's nuance. Okay, guys, peace.